What's going on, everybody? This is Brian Mazik, aka Unique Mazik of the Fight Guys, and I'm also a Forbes contributor. And I am here with Peter Khan, a fellow fight guy. He is also a boxing industry veteran for over 20 years. He's a boxing manager, and most importantly for this conversation, he is an odds expert. What is going on, Peter?
Brian, my fellow fight guy and Forbes contributor, everything's great. Been a busy month. A lot of guys fighting. Everybody's busy. Of course, though, the big news right now is in a few weeks we have Pacquiao and Thurman, and I guess that's what we're here to talk about.
Absolutely. There's a lot going on with Pacquiao and Thurman, as of course, because we're in fight month, business is picking up. And one of the things that happened today, or the biggest thing that happened today, is there was a little bit of a surge in the odds. According to my bookie, we saw the Pacquiao surge ahead to actually become the favorite in the fight. So, as you know, Thurman had been the favorite, even though it was a slight favorite. He had been the favorite throughout the weeks prior to this. But now, as of today, at least, Pacquiao is now listed as a minus 140 favorite. So I want to know, we want to talk about how did that happen? Like, how does this work? Because I know this is something that's well within your wheelhouse. I'm sorry, let me correct that. I'm minus 120.
Yeah, I was going to say, I was going to tell you minus one. I was just going to wait till.
Yeah, it's minus 120.
You gave me the floor here.
Yeah. So let me know, tell us a little bit how this works.
So the opening line was minus 135 for Thurman to, I believe, Manny Pacquiao's plus 105. Okay. Yes. So we understand how this works in betting terms. You would have to bet $135 to win 100. And if you were betting on Pacquiao, you'd bet $100 to win $105. Okay. Right. So that was the opening line. Now, the way it works is based on money that comes in, that's what shifts the line. So what shifts the line is depending on the money that's coming in and who that money's coming in on. So since the opening line was set by the odds makers, like you expressed at mybookie.ag, Thurman at a minus 135, the money to the tune of 62% has been steadily coming in on Pacquiao. So that is why you've seen that number first tighten up to where it had dropped little by little to where it was, closing the gap to it. One point they were both like plus 105 or minus 105 and minus 110. At one point a few days ago, we were hovering at almost even money. And now Manny Pacquiao has become the favorite at minus 120. And I believe Keith Thurman is plus 100. So what I believe is going to happen, which I had expressed this previous week in a story that I published on Forbes, is that eventually this is going to become a pick'em fight. So my guess is that we're going to be at minus 110 for both fighters, or we're going to be at basically pick'em, and there is going to be no actual favorite. You're basically going to possibly be getting even money. Obviously, you're going to pay that 10% juice to the book or to your man or to the bookmaker or whoever you use. But the bottom line is we're going to probably be looking at a pick'em fight. You're basically just going to be picking the winner.
Yeah. And I mean, I can definitely see how that would happen. And of course, how much stock do you put into the reports that are coming out of Pacquiao's training camp, and even some of the images that we've seen of him, video and images? He is ripped. I mean, he is in fantastic shape. So some of the reports are that he is literally tearing through sparring partners, and just looking fantastic, and also extremely motivated by Thurman's trash talk.
I mean, I think you can look at it two ways. Number one, this is Manny Pacquiao. Pacquiao loves the entourage as they run through, the streets in LA right now. He loves the audience. He loves the fanfare. He loves his fans. He gets up and runs, and it's just a pack of people. And a lot of it are people that work with him, people that just are there to support him. And yes, when he gets to wild card, there are a ton of people there, and there's smartphones and videos, and you're watching him do his shadow boxing, and he looks great. I mean, there's no doubt about it, right? He looks great. So in contrast, just because Thurman's not as open about
Hmm.
releasing any type of information because he's not posting things on social media. Well, that's by design.
Hmm.
Thurman probably wants to keep everything close to his vest, doesn't want people to know who he's sparring, how that sparring's going. Because remember, one of the big questions that I asked, I guess, a while back when this was announced was not even a question. It was more so, I guess, a statement when I said, why Keith Thurman is going to have a hard time preparing for Manny Pacquiao. And
Hmm.
that's because really, who do you find from a sparring partner perspective that can really emulate a 5'6", you know, southpaw that has the attributes, a 67-inch or 68-inch reach, but who can emulate Manny Pacquiao? There's not too many people out there at this elite level that can do that. There are plenty of people at 5'9", orthodox, who can work behind the jab that can, with a traditional reach that could emulate Keith Thurman for
Hmm.
Pacquiao. And so while I haven't seen anything from Pacquiao's camp regarding him, running through sparring partners, nor do I haven't really read who those sparring partners are. I would say that I think right now what we have is we have a tale of two camps. One that just puts everything out there, and another one that's keeping it close to the vest. And I think that plays a big role in where people might be placing their money right now.
Yeah, I think so too. I'd agree with that. I wrote a piece today for Forbes, and I did mention that. I said we should not just completely discredit that or dismiss that as a factor in what's happening with the odds. But I do agree with you. I do think by the time the fight rolls around, we are probably going to be looking at an even money fight, or if there is any difference at all, it'll be ever so slight. Um, I am still of the belief, and I believe you're in the same boat. I'm still of the belief that Thurman is too big and too skilled for Pacquiao. But am I guessing that right, or are you
No,
coming from a
I
different?
think so. I think he's too big.
Hmm.
And on our Fight Guys YouTube channel,
Hmm.
obviously, people can watch the interview that I did with Keith in Tampa.
Hmm.
I went to one of his strength and conditioning sessions a week ago, and Keith's big. I mean, I've been around Manny plenty as well, as you know,
Hmm.
and Keith's big. I mean, Keith is strong. He's got the bigger reach. He's got the height, and Keith can fight.
Yeah.
So they're different type of fighters. Keith also has the youthful legs.
Hmm.
I'm still waiting for Father Time to catch up to Manny,
Hmm.
and you never know which fight it can be. But I think that with Keith Thurman, I think what we can end up possibly seeing is the same type of matchup that we saw with Errol Spence against Mikey Garcia, where Garcia runs through guys in his comfortable weight class. And as soon as he stepped up to fight someone that is bigger, stronger, also youthful, I mean, Spence basically was able to win that fight behind the jab. Didn't really have to do a whole lot. And Mikey was not as effective. I don't think Manny Pacquiao at this stage, if we really want to be realistic, what do we go back to Ricky Hatton as his real last one punch knockout?
Last one punch knockout. The last
Right.
time,
Okay.
yeah. Hmm.
Matisse, I was at the Matisse fight in Kuala Lumpur.
Hmm.
Yes, he stopped an older Matisse who I know had trouble making weight because I was watching Matisse with his coach Joel Diaz right up to the weigh-in, trying to still make that weight.
Hmm.
But it wasn't that one punch knockout. I mean, I was at the Broner fight, and I think Pacquiao was the beneficiary of a Broner that just wouldn't take risks or let his hands go. And
Hmm.
I saw Pacquiao lunging and reaching at times. Yeah, he throws those punches at those odd angles, but I just think that if he tries some of that with Thurman, he might he might be in trouble.
Yeah, Pacquiao's last knockout before Matisse, which I agree with you. I think Matisse was in a position where he kind of had one foot out of the career already. I think he already been contemplating walking away, and he fought like it. But his last knockout before that is actually Miguel Cotto, and it's a long, long time ago.
Right.
And he hasn't really, truly stopped a legitimate welterweight.
Was that
And
Cotto before or after Margarito?
I think it was Cotto after. I don't know. I have to check. I'd have to check that.
Because if it was
But
Cotto after Margarito,
it's a compromised Cotto.
that's right.
Yeah.
And so, but nonetheless, I think the point we're both making that we can agree on is that Manny Pacquiao is one of the greatest fighters in the history of boxing. And the fact that we're having this conversation and judging him here and critiquing him on his 8th weight division, it's kind of funny, right? Because, I mean, not only is he going to be 41 years old in December, I believe, but we're sitting here talking about him matching up a guy 10 years younger than him in his 8th weight division, right?
Right.
So, and he's still competitive. I mean, believe me, this is a fight. This isn't any type of walkover for anybody. This is a fight. I just feel that when it comes down to it, I think that a lot of people are going to be judging Thurman on his Josecito Lopez fight. And I think that after 2 years out of the ring, for people that don't understand that ring rust is a real thing, that it's one thing to spar, it's another thing to be in a real fight and against someone that's going to come forward and press that action and try you. And I think that's why Lopez was the right guy to see where Thurman was at. And immediately Thurman admitted right after the fight that clearly that wasn't his best performance. But let's be real, when he was active, he was coming off back-to-back wins, impressive wins against Sean Porter and Danny Garcia, where it wasn't even a question who the best welterweight in the division was, considering that Spence hadn't even fought Kell Brook yet.
Yeah. Well, just to backtrack a little bit, the when he fought Cotto, it was 2 fights after the Margarito fight. So absolutely, this was after that. But the one thing I would say, if there's a little bit of hesitancy with me in regards to looking at Thurman going into this fight, Thurman is so calculated and so much of a thinker in the ring. I'm wondering sometimes if he will overanalyze this situation and fight a little bit more tentative than he actually has to, because Manny does have the odd movements, and he does some things that are different than what most fighters would do in terms of the way he approaches, the way he attempts to close distance. I know Thurman has watched tons of Manny even before this fight was signed, because he wanted this fight 6 years ago. He mentioned that to you in the interview that's on the channel. But I'm wondering, will that manifest itself as a bit of being over tentative? Because I thought he was a little bit hesitant against Sean Porter and against Danny Garcia sometimes, but those guys are more, I believe, more dangerous punchers than Pacquiao at this stage of his career.
I mean, I looked at him in the Garcia fight as someone that was fighting with purpose. I mean, he was using that jab. He was mindful of Garcia's left hook. He was really methodical and winning round after round in that, in that fight. I think what Pacquiao, like any smart fighter at the elite level, is going to do, this is a 12-round fight. Thurman is not the go after, jump on, aggressive fighter like some fighters might be, right? So I think that he is going to feel out Pacquiao. He's going to try to get a handle on the timing and the distance. And I don't think he fears Pacquiao's power. I mean, obviously, look, I spoke to, I have 90 seconds with Freddie Roach this past week as well in California, where, he's predicting a Pacquiao knockout. I think Freddie's now is like 100 for 100 in his last predictions of picking knockouts for every fighter that he's with. It just seems to be right. And there's no doubt about it. Freddie's a great trainer, and he knows what he's doing. And he's been with Manny going on over 15 years plus. So, I mean, I don't think Manny's going to knock out Thurman. I don't think he has the one punch knockout power left in him. I do think that I think I might have seen somewhere where Freddie was sort of goading Thurman to take risks, to come forward. Well, yeah, that sounds great, because, you don't want Thurman to keep Manny on the end of his jab the whole night and then keep turning him, which I think Thurman even told me that's what he was going to do. Just keep turning him, keep using those angles, keep that jab out there, let Manny run into something.
Right.
Which, I mean, look, it finally took, it took Juan
Manuel Marquez.
Thank you, Marquez, to stop for Pacquiao to walk into something.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And Manny has that it's Manny's style, is that bouncing, lunging in at times. And
Mhm.
for most of the fight, it seemed like all Broner was trying to do was time a left hook when that was happening, but he was doing it like a wide receiver that's afraid to lay out going down the middle.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think we both know uh, Broner. Is Broner never reached the potential that people had for him. His best weight class was 135. He outgrew that weight class,
He ended up with
and
4 divisions, right?
I think he's a two or is he a 4 division champion or two or three?
No, he's 4.
It's four. Okay, so it's
At least
135.
4. At least 4.
Okay, it's 135. I know, and then 140. And what did he get? One at 140, or is it only 147?
No, Broner's a 4 division
Okay.
world champion.
I think some
Pretty
of the
confident.
one of the wins is I think over Habib Alikverdiev. So we
Listen, he's got 4 world titles in 4 different weight divisions. So it had to be 30, 35, 40, and 47. So,
yeah, I mean the 147 is I think taking Paulie's.
okay. So,
I think yeah.
look, I'm just saying, the point I'm making is it's Manny Pacquiao.
Hmm.
I mean, I just don't think anyone's safe with Pacquiao. I think when Pacquiao fought Horn,
Hmm.
he decided to finally show up halfway through the fight
Hmm.
and realized that this was going to be an ugly fight and he was getting out muscled. And I think that if you watch the most recent Marcos Viegas YouTube post that he did, where it was sort of something I don't think he planned on doing because we had done that the same day. And I think finally he decided to publish it where Keith was kind of going off on him
Hmm.
regarding who won the Jeff Horn fight,
Right.
where Keith was insisting that Horn won. But not only that, but he was really going through how he felt Horn mitigated Manny's offense.
Right. Yes.
So I think that Keith was sort of in the moment there. I
Hmm.
I don't think it was calculated. I think he was sort of outlining a little bit of strategy because he was trying to make it. He was having an argument, and I think he was, outlining a little bit of strategy. And don't be surprised in a strange way if Keith not only keeps Manny at the end of his punches, but also smothers him.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and allows Manny to smother his own shots as he lunges in. So, as he tries to close that distance, just allowing him to smother those shots as he,
Yeah.
just that the in between movement. But I actually see the fight ending, unfortunately, because Manny is my favorite fighter. It's just stepping away from the writer aspect and that perspective. Manny's my favorite fighter. But I unfortunately see this fight ending with a KO, and with the trouble starting from a counter right hand from Thurman. I literally can see Pacquiao moving into this shot, and it's a punch Thurman's been setting up most of the fight. Just judging distance and judging timing. He's a calculated guy. He's a bigger guy. You can really make the argument that Manny has never stopped a legitimate welterweight ever.
Right.
He never has. Because Cotto's not a legitimate welterweight. He never was. He's never knocked, and neither was Matisse.
Right.
He's never stopped a legit welterweight, and that's exactly what Thurman is. So, to expect for him to do that at 40
Right.
to a 30-year-old guy, I think it's asking a lot.
Look, what could be trouble for Manny is if Keith does corner him on the ropes, if he does have him in a compromised position where he can attack from distance and not be touched,
Mm-hmm.
and get Manny on the end of his punches. I don't know. I just look, like I said, I love Manny too,
Mm-hmm.
because I mean, just also being around him and having a fighter and George Kambosos Jr., lightweight contender that had spent 3 camps with Manny. So,
Mm-hmm.
really been able to see a little bit behind the scenes and love what he's done for the sport. Look, we all know that he was chasing a Floyd Mayweather rematch to avenge that loss. I think once he accepted the fact that that was no longer a reality, and he settled into that he was going to fight Broner.
Mhm.
We all saw how disinterested he was in Texas when they were talking about trying to have him fight
Yeah.
Spencer's. But I think some of that could have been. Now, remember, was it? I'm trying to think about. So, I don't know if Thurman really was on the radar yet or what was going on. So, nonetheless, I mean, Spence was not going to be an option. Maybe they were trying to bring back Thurman Porter too before, you know what I mean? And then the winner of
Nah.
that fighting the winner is Spence. Well, I'm just trying to think about, because the way that this worked out now, Porter's fighting Spence and Manny's fighting Thurman. The winners are going to fight each other, and the winner that's going to fight Crawford. So, it's exciting times. I mean, the welterweight division is going to have a unified champion by the end of 2020. And I believe that we're going to ultimately see Thurman and Spence in what also could be a good matchup. And I mean, not looking too far ahead, obviously the purpose of what we're talking about today was the odds. So one thing I wanted to point out to you, which I find really interesting, which for this stage of the timeline of a fight, with only 3 weeks to go, there's no total rounds that the odds make. I think the odds makers are trying to get bettors to focus strictly on picking the winner right now.
Mm-hmm.
And then they'll get into the method.
Yeah.
Normally, we would have total rounds for something like this to be already 9.5 or 11.5. I think that when they do put up the actual rounds, I think it's going to be 11.5. But I think what they're doing is they're waiting to see where the money goes to then determine how people feel. Like if the money was all going on Thurman, then you might look at 9.5 rounds because the odds makers might feel that maybe this is something that's going to be a stoppage. But if the money keeps coming on Pacquiao, we might look at 11.5 rounds because I think that the conventional wisdom is going to be that it's going to go distance.
Yeah, I would I think that is conventional wisdom. I just feel for whatever reason, and I'm fairly accurate when I get this kind of a feeling. Thurman's going to stop him.
It very well might be. I mean, look, it very well might be, and I mean, it's very conceivable, right? I mean, right now,
one thing I'm wondering about is he talked about Jeff Horn bullying Pacquiao.
Mm-hmm.
That's traditionally not the style of fight that Thurman likes to fight.
I think what Thurman might do to emulate that is when they're in close and he overcommits, maybe push Manny's head down. But you know what? Depending on who the referee is for this, that might not fly for too long.
Mm-hmm.
Might be a quick warning with you do it again, you're going to get a point, at which point that's done.
Mm-hmm.
And if you and I are talking about it, you better believe that Freddie Roach is going to be bringing this up in the pre-fight instructions. So I think Thurman's going to stick to his bread and butter of boxing, his combination of being a boxer puncher, his youth, his legs, his movement. I think he's going to go out there and fight the best fight he can fight against a southpaw, who is really difficult to train for. I think if that's one of Manny's biggest advantages is really Keith getting in the ring that night, not fully having been able to prepare exactly for Pacquiao. Whereas Pacquiao, for the most part, is going to be able to find, like I said, plenty of people that can emulate what Keith's going to bring to the table, at least in stature and presence, right?
Yeah.
Maybe even speed, because Keith's not exactly known as a fighter with the tremendous amount of speed. He's just a very good, well-rounded champion. So right now, like I said, we're sitting at -120, Pacquiao +100 Thurman. I really believe it's going to be -110, -110 at the sound of the opening bell. I believe that the sharp money, the smart sports bettors, the ones that do this for a living, the ones that I think the late money is going to come in on Thurman. I also think a lot of people are going to wait till fight week, and especially the weigh-in. For whatever reason, people feel that. And look, if there's any fight that you shouldn't allow the weigh-in to dictate where your money goes, it's going to be Joshua Ruiz. Okay,
Yeah.
because if you're using that weigh-in as an example, then you'd be very wrong. But in this case, for whatever reason, remember Manny Pacquiao has fans all around the world. He also has a nation behind him.
Absolutely.
There are people, he could be fighting Godzilla, and they will bet on Manny Pacquiao.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. It's Manny.
Yeah.
It's Manny Pacquiao. And, the thing about his fan base is win or lose, it's a party. I was in Australia. I was in Brisbane when he fought Jeff Horn. And if you remember, that fight took place for us in the morning.
Yes.
So, I mean, we were back at the hotel probably by 4 o'clock. We were back at the hotel, and you wouldn't have known that Pacquiao lost.
Mm-hmm.
People were laughing, singing, consoling each other, but nonetheless, they were just still happy and chanting Manny. So he just inspires people to love him.
Yeah.
And that's attributed to all the good things that he also does outside of boxing. So I see money continuing to come in on Manny, but I do think late money is going to come in on Thurman, and then I think accordingly the odds makers might adjust this, and then we really might be looking at a pick'em fight.
Absolutely. I can see it happening for sure. It's going to be, I believe, the biggest fight of the summer. And as always, we do appreciate you watching the fight, guys. If you have not yet subscribed, make sure you do that now. And don't forget to click the bell as well for the notifications, because that way when these videos go up, you'll be notified. And finally, punch that like button. We appreciate you watching as always. God bless and peace.